So to what degree do we want to scare the audience?
My purpose is not to scare everybody, but if you get scared, I wouldn't be unhappy.
So we're talking about the darker side of our interconnected world, and unfortunately, it's inevitable that you predict 45% of organizations globally will have experienced a cyber attack by 2025.
Actually, that statistic is just, I think today there's only two types of enterprises or government agencies: the ones that have been hacked and the ones that are going to be hacked. So there's no escaping this unfortunate situation.
Why do people continue to get compromised? I mean, we know you're not supposed to click on the links that look strange, or attachments, or talk to strangers, or accept candy from strangers.
Well, I think at a personal level it's a little bit different. I think just to put context, because I'm asked this question all the time and say, why can we not stop this? Basically, I mean, we spend billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and still every enterprise, every government agency, and it's an epidemic. And I think we need to put a little context as to why, right, basically. And it really starts with the internet. The internet was not designed to do what it's doing today. The internet is not designed to run your IT infrastructure. So basically, life used to be very simple when we started. You had your server, you had your desktop, you would log in the morning, and you would go home, and your computer would stay there, and basically, and the way originally enterprises and government agencies protected themselves was by creating a perimeter around your infrastructure, so kind of a castle and moat. If you protect the perimeter, nobody can get in. And that's the way it started for many years, and it kind of worked. What happened was that the perimeter went away with the creation of things like virtualization in the early 2000s. Then you founded the cloud, mobility. Your perimeter no longer exists. Your perimeter is everywhere. Every enterprise has what is called a hybrid perimeter. Your infrastructure is part in your data center, part in an AWS cloud and a Google cloud, part, basically could be in any number of places. So a perimeter is kind of fungible. Your perimeter, all of you who have your personal devices, you're bringing your network of your enterprise or your government agency here, right? So your perimeter is everywhere. So how do you protect that when that perimeter, you cannot put a moat around all that, right? So that is the biggest problem. Today, we're at the cusp of a $10 trillion digitization. Every government agency, every enterprise, every university is digitizing their infrastructure. It's not a matter of choice. You're either doing it or you're going to die because you cannot compete. That digitization, the Achilles heel, is the fact that that incredible infrastructure is very difficult to protect because of the way it's now designed. So that is the challenge. That's why we are where we are today. It is not because of not resources. So basically, it becomes very, very difficult for you to be able to protect your own infrastructure. So
I mean, you're kind of speaking on a macro level. What about individually? We were talking about social media backstage. I mean, we're effectively just handing bad actors the tools to compromise us.
Well, look, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine because I speak a lot about that. And the problem is that on the one hand, people are complaining, I'm being compromised. And my God, it's so dangerous. And, everybody's trying to get to me. And it's true. Everybody is trying to get to you. On the other hand, you've given them an exact playbook on how to do it. Just go to your Instagram, you go to your Facebook, you go to your LinkedIn, and you're giving them, where have you been? You're taking pictures of your house, you're taking pictures of, etc. So it's, and then how much do you pay for? One of the things that I always ask people, okay, so I get it, I understand, you're not going to get away from social media, but social media could be a lot more robust. They could be doing a lot more to protect you. And he said, by the way, how much do you pay for Google? Nothing, right? And Google is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. How much do you pay for Facebook? Nothing. For Instagram? Nothing. All these companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Why? Because they take your personal identity. Everything that they do is how do they track you in order to get commerce to find you and sell you stuff, right? So that it's kind of a totally contradictory to protection. So yeah, I mean, there are things you can do to protect yourself, like multi-factor authentication, and meaning just don't use a password. I love my dog. Just there's a lot of just common sense stuff that you can do that actually helps. But if you're going to be totally open about your life, it's very, very difficult to protect yourself. Number one, it's actually very difficult to protect your enterprise. It's funny. In our company, we have some of the most elite hackers in the world that work for us. And we basically, and we have some of the most advanced software, and we do a lot to protect our customers. But we have a motto in the company, and it says, we don't like people. Why? Because people is the weak link. You are as strong as your weakest link. You can have the best software, you can have the best systems, you can have everything done. If you have somebody that is having access to your network or to your resources, and that person is a weak link, that's going to be the way into your network. And it's almost impossible. We do things to train workforces, to train people, and they still, for example, we do things like we drop, USBs, kind of like, say, and then we'll put like a little thing on it with a little pretty girl or a good-looking guy, and we throw the USB. Even though you say it, I cannot tell you how many people take the USB and plug it in, right, just to see what it is. The moment you did that, you're done, right, basically. So now you try to train people to do that, and it's that human weakness that is very, very difficult to really make as robust as the software. So we like software.
So you mentioned not paying for Google, but some social media companies are starting to charge users. So are you saying that that's a level of protection that users might have if, like, I pay for Twitter Blue, for example?
Yeah, exactly. If Twitter Blue is a perfect example of that, right? And that's just the very beginning. But yes, it can be. But I'm telling you, Suzanne, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. People will not, and social media companies know that, they will not pay for what they're getting for free. It's just as simple as that.
It's interesting, though, because I think I have started to notice, because you can tell who's paying for Twitter Blue because you can do longer tweets, right? And so I've started to notice the people who have the longer tweets. And I'm surprised at how many people actually do seem to be paying for it. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think we'll see, and I think from a point of view, I assure you that if you take a look at statistically the number of and now Twitter is maybe a little bit different also, because Twitter also has become a tool. It's become a business tool. You can actually do your quarterly earnings as a public company. You can do it on Twitter today. So it's a tool. So basically, you're making it more robust. But when it comes to the pure social media like Instagram and all the other it's very, very difficult to get people to charge.
Is there any way out of this, or is cybercrime just something that we're never going to be able to solve?
Yeah, look, people, I don't mean to discourage you, but there's ways you can help yourself. People think that this cybercrime is a very kind of difficult, and when you talk about the dark web, you have this idea that there's very difficult to get. All you need to do is just Google personal identities today. There's a whole world down there of criminals that is very simple. Today, there's all these criminal enterprises. You don't even have to buy their software. You basically rent it. You give them a percentage. They have help desk if you have an issue doing that. So it's not going to go away. It's going to get more complicated, and basically you will be doing yourself a great service if you just kind of think about common sense that you do to protect yourself. So no, it's not going to go away, unfortunately.
I feel like ChatGPT is the new kid on the block and seen as potentially the savior of all of our problems. Is there a place for AI when it comes to solving
AI,
cybercrime?
again, it's a help and it's also a danger, right? AI helps because as you can do things faster and quicker and exactly more robust, be able to protect your networks and everything else. On the other hand, when you have things like AI being able to produce stuff in a moment's notice. You have all these deep fakes that you don't know. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Pope with his Dolce & Gabbana outfit.
But we all wanted that to be real because it just looked hilarious.
I know, but the problem is that it is there. You were not going to avoid it, right? So I think, look, there's a lot going on today that kind of that will continue to make this challenge. This is the eternal game of cops and robbers, right? The eternal game. It's not going to. They're going to be one step ahead. Government enterprises, and the problem is when people talk today. Well, the problem is that we all think about, Russia and China, North Korea are known kind of enemies, if you will. But there's every cartel, every criminal organization. It is so easy today for you to be able to do this. You don't need to go buy physical. All you need to do is really have a network connection, a little laptop, and you're going to go out and fight and wreak havoc on people, right? So it's not going to go away.
So what's next in the battle of cybercrime, and what can governments do?
Yeah, so look, I think one of the things that is really important, if you take a look at how can governments cooperate each other, you will be amazed, all my friends in law enforcement, how difficult it is today even to prosecute cyber criminals international. For example, I'll just give you something. Today, if you're going to prosecute somebody in the U.S. court, and there's let's assume there's some information in a server in France that you need to get, right, to bring it to the court. The system today is the same system that it was 80 years ago. You got to go through these rogatory demands. You have to go to a judge here. The judge has to agree that it is. Then you go to the State Department. If it's in France, the State Department will translate it in French. They'll send it to the Foreign Office Minister. They will do it. Sometimes people will not do it because it is so complicated. So one of the things that we need to do is bring ourselves up to date. While these criminals are being nimble, difficult, let's get ourselves to cooperate together. This is our friends. Our enemies, you got to fight in the traditional way. It's also in today's world with crypto and blockchain, it makes it more challenging and actually sometimes easier. So you need to go after the money, right? The money is becoming one of the biggest issues one of the best ways to be able to fight this.
So final thought, what is the one piece of advice that you would like it to impart on our audience?
I think the one piece of advice is that you need to be aware. It's very, basic. You just kind of get up in the morning and think about it. When is the last time you changed your passwords? Do you have all your passwords in a password-protected place, like a keeper or something like that, basically, versus having them in your back pocket?
How do you remember all these passwords?
You don't. You have a place. You only have to do it one time. Download it. It costs very little money, and then put all your passwords in there, and then it keeps it. But it's almost impossible to penetrate. And then there are passwords that you want to make sure that you're more protected, but just make sure that, it's burdensome. Look, it's no different, Suzanne, than what happened in flying. In the early, 60s and 70s, and not until the early 70s, you could go to any airplane. You didn't have TSA. You didn't have, baggage X-rays. You didn't have, pat downs. Flying was a lot easier, right? Eventually, look what happened. That's what happens today. You have to, you sacrifice a little bit of inconvenience in order for you to be able to sleep better at night. That's the only thought.
Thank you so much. Food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.